Are you looking for something affordable, unique, and fun to give away in your merch orders or at your shows? Look no further. Hit me up today to order 1-inch buttons for your band, label, or other project. High quality metal pin back buttons for your friends and fans, battle jackets, messenger bags, and guitar straps. $33 for 100 buttons shipped in the US. Message me on IG at Everything Remade to get started. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you we have a Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. You can sign up there to read all the zines that we've done, get music sneak peeks, and lots more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. Your support means a lot. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing The Sparrow by The Names of Our Friends, featuring my new pal, Claire Heinzerling, on vocals. The song comes from their debut EP, Should We Know Better Than to Wonder, which comes out this Friday, June 21st, on Middleman Records.
My junior year of high school, listening to Some by Built to Spill, that was just life changing. It does the whole like the whole indie rock soft loud thing. It like it. I don't know how well you know the song, but just the way it like explodes into this like huge mess of sound. I think it does it. I mean, does like I guess it borrows from like Sonic Youth and like all of that, but it just made me think like, holy shit, I want to do that. Like I want to make music that makes people feel this way. And then of course it took me however long, like 10 years to do it, but
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, they're one of those bands that if you played the song, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, I've heard this 1,000 times. But I was real, like, I didn't get into stuff like that until the like getting songs on the internet became a real big thing. And by that point, like, I'll be honest that like it was a get everything you've ever heard of and put it in a Winamp playlist. And so like like 95% of the time I have no idea what I'm listening to. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, did you have any experiences like that? Yeah, where it's just like, and sometimes you definitely like that one song like came on and you're like, this is so good. You like stop whatever you're doing and go over to the player and like look at it. Like, like, oh, I got to remember who this is, And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Sonic Youth as well, because like, I mean, I'd been listening to Sonic Youth since I was in high school or whatever, but like being able to, when the internet broke and stuff, and you can download like their whole discography, and like then you suddenly realize that Sonic Youth had some straight up emo songs. You know what I mean? Like They really did. You're just like, you're like, wow, until like somebody starts singing, like this could have been like any, like Tim Kinsella band or something, but yeah, it's it's Built to Spill is definitely one of those ones where like I'm like I know it when I hear it, but I don't know like if I could name a single song title. Like so, yeah, I'm the girl in that shirt that you're gonna, somebody can call out like, "Oh, you really like them? Name five songs." Like, no, I can't do that. Start humming one, and then I'll finish it. That's how
Yeah,
I know a
exactly.
song.
I could name the end of that riff.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. What kind of stuff were you listening like other than that at that time where this particular track was so revelatory? Was
Yeah,
it
I mean,
different than other stuff you were listening to? Is that part of it or
yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I, I don't remember what inspired this. This was, I guess I had decided around like maybe freshman year of high school. I had decided that I was like into music, like with a capital I and capital M,
mm-hmm.
but like I didn't I didn't really listen to that much music, so I don't know how I like gave that title to myself. Um, I at the time I was listening to like I don't know like mostly like dad rock and stuff, and then like some like I don't know like the occasional like rap song, and and then like I don't remember around when it was, but it must have been my junior year of high school where I decided I was gonna read or listen to all of the I was going to listen to the Pitchfork list of the best albums of the 90s, which is such a funny thing in hindsight, especially now that Pitchfork is kind of going by the wayside, but or at least being bought out. But um, it was, I mean, that was there were a couple albums on that list that absolutely, and most of them came from Built to Spill, that absolutely like changed my life. I think I think a big part of it was like, oh wow, a guitar can sound like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was just a totally new revelation for me. Um, I was I I was kind of playing guitar on and off around the time, and I was like I don't know. It was just like I don't even know how I would get this sound out of this. It doesn't even sound like it's the same instrument. So it just in comparison to other like rock music, which is what I was listening to at the time, listening to anything like experimental or noisy, really. It just felt like, oh wow, this is a whole new world of sounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had plenty of bands like that. And now that I'm like a little more like I know what it is that I was actually like sort of connecting with or whatever, like a lot of it was honestly like just the extreme variances in the different types of production more than, the guitars necessarily like but say like Dinosaur Jr. was one of them, right? It's like when you're talking about like I didn't know a guitar could sound that way. I mean, and that's because Jay Mascis will have like a billion different effects, and use like a completely novel one in every single song, But like, other instances that I could think of was like the Jawbox Novelty album, and it's like the thing there was just like how the guitars were recorded to where they just sounded so like dissonant, and like part of it I recognize as the playing, but like part of it is the fact that like the closest thing that I had to that was like Fugazi, but Fugazi was the recordings were like pretty clear, so this was
Mhm.
I don't know. And it's like I was always drawn to like really live sounding, recordings and stuff like that, and this was just every time I could inch closer to that, like with a band's sound or whatever, the better in my opinion. But like, yeah, it's funny how y- you know it'll take you like 20 years to figure out how to get all these sounds out of a guitar, but like instantly, when it's like it just hits you like that sounds really silly to say, but it's like how many songs had you listened to before that song and nothing connected with you the same way? You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. Like, not to be like you're the only person that song's written for, but doesn't it feel that way sometimes? Is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, when a song just like reaches out and grabs you, and I feel like I agree. Like a huge part of that is the recording. Like I know Phil Ek recorded that, and I I think that he also recorded "These Are Not Fall Colors," that the Link album, um, which like also has like it doesn't sound as big in the same way, but it has that like the guitars just sound so I don't know. There's so like chiming in this way. There's like a lot of high end, and it just I don't know. And I when I think of that album, I kind of think of like Unwound, and how they like I don't know, like none of those guitar lines are like especially complicated or anything, but they're so powerful and just full of energy.
Yeah, yeah. That's a band right there. That I mean, I don't know. There's a few bands that I can think of off the top of my head where it's like you not. No, I'm not saying like people are trying to imitate them, but you can compare bands to that. But it doesn't. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. Like Shotmaker's another one. Like you can compare bands to Shotmaker. You're like, oh, this is kind of, but like it just doesn't. You're like, no, they were like really like everything from the way that their sounds were captured to their songwriting and everything. It was just like a real like one of a kind situation. But yeah, that's. I mean, one thing I was thinking of when you were talking about these lists, is it's it's really it's really interesting when like so I never did that with albums or whatever, right? But like I was like super into comic books when I was like a preteen, and then like I started getting like really back into them in the early 2000s or whatever, and I was like, I don't want like I think that the stories that everybody knows about like Batman and whatever, I think they're fine stories, but I want to know about like the weird stories and stuff. So I went through a list similar to that, and I was just like, what are the best comics, and it's it's weird when you like it's like when you're immersed in a genre, like when we see a list that's like this is the 20 best emo albums of all time, or whatever, and we know a little bit about it, like we're always like, wow, that's not a good list or whatever, right? Like it just never is. But it's interesting like that I feel like these lists do have a place for people who just need something to start with, and that's I think that's the only way to like look at these things that's like healthy, maybe, like, and not just like where you just like drank 2 quarts of haterade or like, like, because yeah, like that comic book list, and I'm sure just like the list you're talking about, like it, like now that I think about that list and like some just like stuff that I ordered like eBay lots or something of some of the stuff, where it's just like you like before anybody cared about comic books again, like you go on eBay and get like 50 comic books like shipped to you for like $15. And so I did, and I got a lot of them, and it's like and it's just like, oh, this is like this is like an army story, but in outer space. And I'm like, well, you know, the story's fine, but I don't really care. You know, like I don't. That's wasn't what I was looking for, right? And those lists are just like that, I guess. You know, and I don't know, like I was like they're useful. You know, it's like where you jump in and find something cool. And I don't know. In that case, like you know, it definitely showed you something cool, and that's awesome. You said you were playing guitar though, like, and that like from the time you heard this song until now was like you use the term use like 10 years as a metric. So like what was like what was going on to where you didn't, you know, start trying to actively play music earlier and stuff? Were you like did you not feel like it was accessible to you in some way, or was it just like imposter syndrome kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's a couple of layers to it. Uh, this is, I guess, some essential Claire lore that which is just that I that sucks, and playing guitar reminded me, especially playing the guitar that I used to have, reminded me very much of my dad. So I stopped doing it for a while.
Ah,
Um, and I recently I recently sold that guitar and bought some old like guitar from the sixth that's like falling apart, but it's uh I so it took a while to recognize that I could like decouple this kind of history that I had with this instrument from like the instrument itself. So I'm just now starting to play guitar again after a while. In addition to that, like another big thing was that I ran a lot, so I ran cross country and track, and I uh, and this sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't really stand for that long. It got I had like kind of like, I was constantly on the verge of, if not actively having like some sort of leg injury. And it was so going to shows and stuff was like just this like impossibility. Um, so I kind of just like sequestered myself away in my room, like listening to like Unwound or whatever, like thinking like, man, it would be great if I could like go see these bands that I love live. Like I remember like State Faults was the band that like really clicked for me with screamo specifically, like uh that their like 2014 album, I think, or 60 or whatever.
mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh man, it would be great if I could I could see these bands live, but you know, I'm stuck in my room sitting down. So there were like a couple of factors, and then I stopped running, and then I kind of got processed my stuff with my dad, and I not that you're ever really done processing that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
um, I kind of I moved out to Portland and basically started begging people to be in a band with me. I That's not actually true, but it was close.
It felt like it,
And
right?
then,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It felt like I was like, you know, like knocking on people's doors, like screaming at them. No, everyone was like really nice, and I don't know. Um, and I guess this is kind of the origin story of the band too, which is that I had vaguely known Helena. We had like replied to each other's Instagram stories a couple times. I saw Senza, and like very regrettably fangirled afterwards, and was like, "Oh, even a wormhole turn changed my life," like, which is true. And then and then everything else kind of sort of fell into place.
Yeah. One thing that I was like, now you say you were having a hard time standing, but you were running. Like, what was the how? I'm having a real like disconnect there with like, how were you running? But it was like, what was it was just like being in motion made it different. Like
Nope. It was really painful,
it
but
was
I convinced myself that I had to do it. I was running up to like 100 miles a week, and like limping through all of it. And and it was just a lot of that deals. It has to do with just the unhealthy culture of like competitive sports. Um,
yeah.
but I that was like, oh, I can live with that kind of pain, but like if I'm like going to a show and standing for an hour, like that's not worth it or whatever. Even though like I've it's so much better to just go to a show and not be in pain the whole time.
Yeah, I would think so. Like maybe lean against a wall or sit down or like
Yeah.
I have a really bad knee too, but I bet like uh I think it's just like really bad arthritis,
Hmm.
which was like compounded by like a mild injury, so it just like it just caught on like I sound like I'm like 70, when I talk about my knee, but I'm not. But it's just like I just had this injury, and I think it just kick-started that, and I've read that that's a thing. Did you get any resolution with that situation, like to where you're able to like front a screamo band now and stuff like that, or is it just like because you stepped back from like basically giving yourself like repetitive stress on the knee that it's just you've learned to like live with it a little bit better? Like what's
Yeah, I mean, I like I at this point I have pretty chronic pain. And like that's from a number of things. Like I have back pain, I have plantar fasciitis, I have ulcerative colitis. And like all of those things kind of contribute to a state of mind of like I of like not wanting to. I mean, I think it's really tough to talk about this kind of thing because like it's something that so many people experience, and for so many people it's like something that like you're just told to like push through or whatever, which I mean I'm sure that you've heard.
yeah,
um
yeah.
and that's so unproductive and so damaging, but at the same time like there's some times when like I'll be in a lot of pain and I'll be like, but I really like last night I saw the Hotelier, and that was another one of those like life-changing bands for me, where and I mean my feet were in a pretty decent amount of pain, but like it was like I wouldn't give up that opportunity for the world. So I think like finding a healthy place where I can recognize that like I do have a body and sometimes that body has limitations, I guess, but that like I can also live my life the way that, you know, I want to when I have the ability to do so.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm really grateful for the fact that like my chronic pain doesn't prevent me from standing at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, it's absolutely like not just, it's, it's not just like a, like I always used to think it was just like boy shit, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and it almost took me recognizing like that I was not a boy ever. That like wait, like this wasn't like this isn't just boy shit, right? Like it was maybe worse because people expected certain things out of me based on what they thought of me, but like it's not. Like look around. Like people just think that like you have to be like whatever kind of productive member of society, and if you can't, or like it's not easy for you to do so, then you're just lazy or you're just whatever, you know? And there's like internalizing all that and being like I mentioned I asked you if you had like if part of your hesitation for joining a band was like imposter syndrome at all, and like you're probably like, wow, that's really forward, but I am like the queen of that shit, like especially for someone that does as much as I do, like you would not think that that's a thing in my life. So it's like you're internalizing this like you know, like you mentioned, you should just push through it, you know, you're internalizing this like maybe my situation is as bad as I think, you know, or like you're internalizing all of this, so like that you know, you're just like convincing yourself that like you, like you're lazy or this is your fault, or you know what I mean. And that's like, you know, we talked about dads for a second, and like, you know, like I won't go all the way there either, but like you know what I'm saying, this is like all comes from somewhere, and in my
Yeah.
case, you know, that's where all this is. And it took a lot of things for me to just be like, yeah, no, like, nah, it's cool. Like, I'll go to the show and I will sit down. Like, I don't, it's, and like, I'm here to support, and I'm here to enjoy this, and I'm here to like live my life as full as I can. But if that means I have to sit down, then it's not a disrespect to anybody. It's not that like I'm old or weak, or I mean I am old and I am weak, but like not for those reasons, right? You know, it's like just for other reasons. But yeah, it's good to hear that you know have found that balance, and that you know you were able to make being in a band a thing that you could do, you know, regardless of you know all of your history with playing music, and the situation with like the guitar and stuff. Yeah. So this is your pretty much your first band.
Yeah, I I there was a brief moment for like I don't know, a couple weeks back in sophomore year of high school where I was in where I was in what we called a band, but was more just a bunch of people playing music at the same time, and playing different music at the same time. Um, but yeah, it's the first time I'm doing like actual shows, and like the idea of recording is crazy to me. I and it's the kind of thing that I'm just I don't know. I just like wake up every morning and I'm reminded of being in this band, and I think, oh my god, how did I how did I get so lucky? I am just endlessly grateful for this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this this band immediately was like, I think this band was immediately on everyone's radar because like not only does Helena have like, very like high credentials, she's an incredible musician and has a very good pedigree of projects and stuff. But also obviously the fact that it's all trans folks. And
Mhm.
was that pitched to you like from the onset, like, or what, like, how formed was the band when you came into it, or was it like how did, you said this is kind of how the band was formed, but like sometimes it's like, oh, and then they needed a vocalist, so like where were you at in the formation as far as that went?
Yeah, so I mean, I, I kind of think that like, I mean, basically the way that it started was I wanted to start a band that was all trans women and that was making where we were making screamo.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Helena a little bit. We talked about there was one like one of us, I think she posted a like an Instagram story of like um her like last FM 5x5 or whatever, and Terry Green was on there, and I swiped up and was like, I love Terry Green. They're like one of my favorite active bands, um, and and she was like, oh yeah, if you ever want to make like melodic stuff like that, let me know. I've been wanting to make more melodic stuff recently. And so that was kind of there was kind of that little piece in place. I also around the same time I was getting to know Katie from, well, there's some stuff going on, but Katie, who was at the time in Gossip, and and I don't want to like get into any of that, but so we were talking about, Helen on guitar, Katie on bass, and then there was then what came next? Oh, and then Katie was like, "Oh, I know Luna Rain. Luna Rain, we can have her on drums, and then we have a full band." And Luna Rain is just in so many projects. It's kind of impossible not to run into her in the Portland scene one way or another, which is great. I mean, she's an incredible drummer. But then, so we were all going to meet up at one of Luna Rain's shows in at one of her bands, and then we were all sitting together, and we were all like just like a bunch of trans girls and like hanging out, and then this other person comes over to us, Kim, and she's like, "Hey, can I hang out with you guys?" And we start talking, and and by the end of the night, we've decided that Kim is going to be our second guitarist, and kind of some like Katie had a lot of stuff going on in her life, and she wasn't really able to like commit to the band in the same way, and we kind of shifted the band around a little. But now Helena's on guitar, Kim's on bass, Luna Rain's on drums, and I'm on whatever I do.
Okay, so it was like you and Helena chatting, and then just like one by one, kind of a big hangout, and then and then the band pretty much became. Yeah, it's I've been trying to like do I've been trying to do like all trans girl band for so long, and it just like never works out. And so I was like, this is incredible. Like I'm glad that this is happening, um, and I need to know everything about it. Uh, but yeah, it's um, it, it's like just from the like I'm not familiar with like what projects is Luna Rain in.
She's in. So right now, oof, let me think of her full list.
Well, just a couple
She's
then.
Yeah. So she was formerly in a couple of like other. Oh, her biggest project right now is Elephant Walk. Which
I'm not
that's
familiar with them.
yeah, it's another all trans band where she's doing like I don't know. It's kind of youth crew stuff. It's like just very like it's just East Coast hardcore.
That's awesome.
It's yeah, it's awesome. It's great. It's especially like I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm not complaining, but there's a lot of like beatdown stuff in the in the Portland area.
Hmm.
So it's cool to have a hardcore band that's doing something like that sounds like pretty drastically different.
Oh, okay. I was just assuming this was going a different way, where it was almost like it's it flips it on its script because it is a bunch of trans women, as opposed to it's like everyone thinks this is like cis bro hardcore stuff, but it's not. Which like would also be very cool. But yeah, um, it like I'm not familiar with that band, but like I did, in just like the Instagram clip where Helena was playing this riff, and then she's like, "Do you want me to play it like this, like this, like this, or like this?" And it's like 10 different like sick ass beats that could have went on there, and you're like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, this is gonna work. This is gonna work out fine." Um, but yeah, was there any like when you first started going to practice and stuff, were you nervous? Like you're just like this person played on this album, like she wrote this album that is like, you know, like top 10 screamo albums of the last decade, and now I'm playing in a band with her.
Oh my god. Yeah. I
Or
mean,
did I just like plant that there now? I'm sorry, I did scrub that beep.
yeah, totally ignore. Um, no, I remember like it took a little while to get going because um because I don't know, it's hard to get a band going and it's hard to get a band of like I don't know. I don't know if there's a stereotype about trans girls, but like we are like it is hard to get us organized. Um um but like yeah, it I don't know. There was just like she has such a like I remember there was one show that was like that was with one of Luna Rain's old bands and Helena and I ended up talking afterwards for like half an hour about Converge and and after that moment I was like, oh, okay, like we're I don't know, not necessarily on the same page because I don't think I'll ever be on the same page as her. Like, I don't think I'll ever be as like, as much of a like just musical mind as her. But and I'm okay with that. But
Yeah, I mean,
um,
yeah, you just have to be, right? It's
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Um, but yeah, I don't know. There was that moment that everything just kind of clicked where it was like, oh yeah, we're just talking right now. We are just friends. And I think there's just this connection of um, like no matter what, when you're meeting new people, it's hard. And I think that like when you're a little starstruck, there is definitely that added layer of, oh, am I in the right place right now? But I don't know. Helena is just such a like has just a really like kind presence and really helped me feel at ease whenever I was feeling like, oh, I don't really belong here. So I never got that sense from her, but I definitely definitely had that internal sense of, oh my god, like I'm in the same room as Helena. I I've been playing this album nonstop for the past 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what like what about d I'm gonna back up. So you mentioned that you had played guitar and stuff, and but this is like just like, okay, now you're gonna be a vocalist. So what made you think that's what I want to do, or what made you even think like this is something you could do necessarily?
Yeah, that's there.
Like
This
sometimes
is
it's just as much as like you're pissed, you got shit to say, and you want an outlet for it. So like there's a million reasons, but like yeah.
yeah. It's I I I mean, I think a tiny part of it was like, oh, I'll never be good enough at guitar, but I can like blow my voice out and sound kind of all right. But I think that the main part of it was I've written like poetry for a while, and that has been a huge source of like catharsis and joy and like healing for me, in a way that like anyone who gets really woo woo with poetry will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was just huge for me, and like there were times where I was like, oh man, this sounds okay, but I'd really like to be screaming it. And so that was a huge part. I don't think that I have anything particularly like revelatory to say, but I do think that I need to say it.
Yeah, I mean that's really it's not there's a weird sort of sense of responsibility sometimes when you're writing the lyrics or whatever, right? Like, and I mean, I don't know. I like you. It's y'all's band, right? So like, the only people you're really beholden to is like the other members of the band, and if they don't like what you're saying, then that's another thing altogether. But like, as far as like what you're saying about like something being revelatory or whatever, like there's I just think there's so much value in like just the fact that you're the person saying it. You know what I mean? And like not you specifically, but like also you specifically, but just everyone. Like it's the fact that it's what you choose to say that makes it revelatory in a way, right? Like because like you're the only person that's going to say it that way. And like I don't know, like I think there's this thing sometimes where we think that if we're not like reinventing the wheel like lyrically or musically, or then like that's some sort of failing, and i'd I'd really dislike that idea. Like, I mean, I don't I I wouldn't even want to sit here and say like the like all of the songs that I listen to on a daily or a weekly basis that like, I mean, the lyrics are straight up embarrassing, but they make me like happy. You know what I mean? Or do you know what I'm saying? Like I did preface by asking the question like that did you just feel like you had something to say, and that didn't, maybe that does make it sound like I was asking if you thought that you're gonna change the world with your lyrics, you know, and maybe like you will, but like one person's world, you know, or whatever. But like that's not like what I'm trying to say is that shouldn't ever be a prerequisite, like to somebody feeling good about like singing their songs or whatever, you know. Like I don't know if it felt like I was implying that, but
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's I think like I the we played a show recently that was with another screamo band from around here. I Heard Your Laugh, and then two other bands that are, the one is more like post-hardcore, the other is more like soft rock. And it was a funny bill, but uh, after our set, someone came up to me and said that they cried, and and that made me cry. And it was just this, I don't know, it was just this like really beautiful moment of like, even if it's not someone else's like even if it's not someone else's Some by Built to Spill, like the
yeah.
idea of like me, or like something I'm a part of, because it's not just me, but
Hmm.
the idea that something I'm a part of can make someone feel heard or seen. Like I'm tearing up now just thinking about it. That's what I want to get out of this, is just like, and I think that's true for everyone, is just this like kind of deep sense of empathy and knowing that I think music lends itself really well to.
I write a lot of poetry also, and like I think it's probably all really bad, but like that just won't stop me, right? Because like I don't know, it just it just feels right, and like people don't have to listen to it, like read it, or like you know, like if they don't want to, and there have been people that were like, yeah, this really affected me, and that's like surprising, but in a good way, and like yeah, I don't know. It's like I'll read poetry and I'm like, obviously this is really good and I really enjoy it. And like, what is it that I'm doing that is not this? Like, why is it? But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's weird sometimes how we evaluate like the art that we create in different ways. You know, like this is I like all kinds of things. I don't just like screamo, but like a screamo band that's like really good, and I'm like, how come my band, my you know band X band or whatever isn't this good or whatever? And it's just like, how do you even like why we make these comparisons or whatever? You know, it's like I don't know. Um, I'm just like getting off in the weeds here, but like, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It's really like I don't get to chat a lot of times with people that like this is like their first thing, and like you know I think that that's like whoa, I think that's really inspiring even to me as somebody who's done that thing a bunch of times, because like, I'm everybody has something that they would rather be doing, right? But they're just like getting in their own way about it or something, or sometimes there's like other legitimate things that are in their way about it. And like, I don't know. I guess like at least people can get out of their own way for the most part. So hopefully, like that's what was going on. And maybe that's like what people can take away from conversations like this and stuff too. It's just like, you know, um, yeah. I mean, you don't know until you start doing it. But
Yeah.
you did mention before we started recording that you all are planning to record soon. Um, so like by the time this airs, like we may have some snippets to play people or whatever. But what what are the plans for this recording? Like, are you recording with some people or like how many songs? Like, what kind of details can you tell us?
Yeah, so we're basically just going to be recording our live set, um,
Oh, okay.
uh, which is somewhere around 15 minutes. It's how many songs? Eight, maybe. I'll guess eight.
Okay.
um, it's and we're recording with Matt from I I'm so sorry, Matt. I don't know your last name, but um, uh, Helena and Matt have worked together recording. I don't want to get too much about the stuff, but they've worked together recording stuff for Senza, and oh my god, it sounds good. I won't. Yeah, I won't get too excited here, but it sounds really good. So I'm really excited to work with Matt. I I yeah, Matt's also just a really genuinely nice guy, and like I'm really excited to have the opportunity to just like I don't know sit down and like play these songs that we've been working on for however many months. It's yeah, it's also funny thinking about like the we started as like, oh, let's start like a melodic screamo band. Let's be a Terry Green ripoff. And like most of the songs that we've written recently have just ended up being like more emo violent stuff. And I think that I think that all of us want the EP to have that kind of like intensity the whole way through.
Mm.
And not that Terry Green doesn't have intensity, but like I think there's definitely going to be a lot of that.
Yeah. What was the decision to do it totally live like that? And I mean, do you mean like straight up totally live, like not even the vocals will be like it's just
Oh,
everything recording at once, or?
oh, yeah. So we're not going to record live.
Oh, okay.
We're just doing playing the same songs as in our live set.
Oh, okay. Okay, cuz
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean like lots of folks like record all the instruments live, like the players will play and everything will be like mic'd off separately, and then the vocalist will go in the booth later, but not that at all. So it's a you know fairly standard recording procedure as far as um are you nervous about this at all? Like um like is
Yeah.
this yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's 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 funny the first time for sure. Like I don't know, like if you thought about that ahead of time too much, but there's the whole like when you're in the room doing the vocals, and like sometimes like sometimes the music will be playing, like if they're in the other room, sometimes the music is playing in the room when you're doing the vocals in there, like, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes like they're just in the other room and it's just like all they hear is just you screaming. And that's like effectively hilarious to everyone else in the other room, but it's like in your case you're like, wow, I feel real awkward right now. um if I can recommend anything, I'd say, like, if you have like a little desk lamp or something that you could bring, and if there's a room that you're recording in, if you could turn all the lights off and just have enough light to where you can, like, that makes me feel good. That's just like, that's just like a that's a pro tip, I guess, you know. But yeah, it makes me feel like if I can't see them, they can't see me. I'm good. I'm in here, you know. Makes me feel good. But yeah, it's like, does anyone else in the band do like some vocal spots here and there?
No, we were talking about uh there's one song that um I can't remember what, I think it's Idol. There's one song where I like it, the vocals are pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
For me at least, and there was some like thought of like alternating lines with Helena. Um and I I think part of me is maybe a bit like territorial with my lyrics, just not that I don't think Helena would do them justice, but that like it feels like, I don't know, it feels like I don't I don't know exactly, because
Yeah.
like
Well, it's kind of like it's kind of like you want to say the whole thing,
yeah.
and it's also kind of like, for me anyway. Also, it's also kind of like I don't want to tell somebody else what to say. Like that also
Yeah.
feels a little strange, you know. So maybe it's like some
Yeah,
combination of
exactly.
that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was just asking because like if that were the case, if somebody else was going to be in there, then at least you could experience that part, you know, of being on the other side of the glass or whatever it's going to be. But I mean, yeah, just like in general, like I just have always thought that recording is such a fun part of the process, and some folks that I've talked to hate it. Some people hate that part. Some people think it's the best part. You know, I don't know. You know, I like pretty much all of it. I like. I mean, I like it. I like everything. Like when we were just getting ready to play this show earlier this month, and people came over and we were just practicing the songs. Like, I mean, I just think it's such a like it's like every time I pick up the guitar, I feel like one of those videos where a baby tries ice cream for the first time or something, you know. Like, I mean, like I'm just like, what is this thing? Like, how does this work? Like, this is impossible. Like, this makes no sense to me, but here we are. Like, and I can know everything about what I'm doing to this, but none of it still makes sense to me. It's just like incredible. But yeah, I'm really excited for you, and I hope that, you know, it sounds like you are in good hands as far as like, you know, you know who you're going to be going and working with, and you know the kind of environment, you know, as opposed to just like, you know, well, we found this person on Craigslist that says they'll do this for $15 an hour, so like that's what we're doing, you know, because like, I mean, I've been in situations like that for sure. uh, but yeah, I'm real excited to hear it when it comes out. I like just like a lot of people, you know, we've only just heard like little live clips here and there, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. But yeah, you know, like before we just get started on some other random tangent where like I nervously pontificate for 5 minutes. Is there anything else that we should go through before we start to wrap it up and everything? Like, is there anything
Hmm.
else you wanted to chat about?
I mean, I think that I guess a thing about the like um one of my one of my friends tweeted recently that, and I think that this is like to some extent like a intentional overstatement, but um, she said that the thing about making art in the Imperial core is that at best it's useless, and at worst it's evil. And that stuck with me a lot. And I guess like all this is to say, like, if there is a mission statement or ethos for this band, it's like helping or just creating a helping to create a place where people feel less alone. Um, and I think that that's as close to not useless as we can get.
Right.
Um, and that's especially true for anyone. I mean, I think that like it's really easy for me to say like, oh, our shows are a place for everyone. Our music is for everyone, and then be like, well, like, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing to make for everyone? So I think that that's like a constant struggle, and something that I don't know that necessarily I have like a statement on this or anything, but I want to like um I guess make it known that like if that like our music is made by people who like have felt not known or not seen or not worthy or any of those things, and that like if anyone is listening to this podcast and feels that way, that like they are more than worthy, and that like if that like yeah, that there is someone in the world who sees them.
And that was my conversation with Claire Heinzerling. Thank you so much, Claire, for taking the time to chat with me. I am so excited for everyone to hear your EP. Thanks to all of y'all for listening wherever you are as well. Don't forget to go by patreon.com/humanmachine and have a look around. Until next time, take care and do good things.